IPS Classic metal ceramic has been commercially available and consistently improved for many years. So, the time-tested metal ceramic offers many advantages for fast, efficient and aesthetic ceramic layering procedures. IPS Classic permits the fabrication of restorations shaded according to AD and gingiva shade guide. This video tutorial shows you how a bridge framework is veneered with the metal ceramic material IPS Classic. The ceramic is applied according to the standard layering technique. Part 1. Preparation Guidelines and Framework Design. The preparation must provide sufficient space to achieve strong and aesthetic metal ceramic restorations. When you work with IPS Classic, it's important to adhere to the preparation guidelines for metal ceramics and the design principles of metal frameworks. In conventional cementation, a minimum height of 3 mm of the prepared tooth and a convergence angle of approximately 6 degrees must be observed. In bridge restorations, the minimum connector dimensions also have to be observed. The connector dimensions depend on the selected alloy and the pontic width. The stability of the connectors between the abutments and pontics in bridge reconstructions is ensured with the help of the framework design and adequate framework thickness. The framework design and thickness must meet the specific optical and functional requirements as well as all aspects of periodontal hygiene. For detailed information, please refer to the IPS Classic Technical Guide and the Ivoclar Manual for Framework Design. Part 2. Preparing the framework. Now you can start fabricating your metal framework according to the method of your choice. Follow the planned layering scheme and make sure that the framework has adequate dimensional stability. Avoid sharp edges and transitions. Bear in mind that insufficiently dimensioned metal frameworks will result in increased shrinkage of the veneering ceramic. Finish the metal framework with tungsten carbide burrs and ceramic bonded grinding instruments to obtain a fine surface structure. Work in one direction only to avoid overlapping and inclusions in the metal surface. Carefully blast the framework with aluminium oxide after finishing. The strength of the blasting pressure depends on the hardness of your framework alloy. Observe the instructions for use of the corresponding alloy. The enlarged surface and the micro-retentive areas produced by the blasting process enhance the mechanical bond of the ceramic to the metal framework and therefore the quality of the restoration. Clean the metal framework with the steam jet and dry it with oil-free compressed air. Ivoclar recommends oxide firing as cleaning firing. Conduct the oxide firing according to the instructions of the alloy manufacturer. Make sure to support the framework properly on the firing tray. After the oxidation process, check the framework for porosities and uneven oxide. Rework the restoration if necessary. Clean the framework again with the steam jet. Do not touch the framework with your fingers after cleaning. Instead, use tweezers and clips to handle the framework. Part 3. Masking of framework and adjustment of the base shade. The layering procedure follows a fixed sequence. Choose between a ready-to-use paste opaquer or a powder opaquer for application. Select the suitable IPS Classic V powder opaquer in accordance with the required tooth shade and mix it with some IPS Classic powder opaquer liquid on a mixing plate until the desired consistency is obtained. Thinly apply the first opaquer layer on the clean metal framework with a brush. Completely coating the metal with the opaquer or wash creates a sound bond between the metal and all the subsequent ceramic layers. It's important to prevent excess opaquer from reaching the inner aspects of the abutment crowns in order to avoid any inaccuracy of fit. Fire the first opaquer layer using the firing parameters for IPS Classic. Make sure to adequately support the framework and pay attention to the standby temperature of 403 degrees Celsius. The IPS Classic firing programs are available on the Ivoclar website and can be installed on your Ivoclar Programmat furnace. After firing and cooling, clean the metal framework with the steam jet and subsequently dry it with oil-free air. Remove the amount of opaquer powder required for the covering layer from the jar and add it to the dried wash opaquer residue on the mixing pad. Mix everything to the desired consistency with some IPS Classic V powder opaquer liquid. Apply an even, full coverage second opaquer layer. Use a brush or ball-shaped instrument for this purpose. Now, fire the second opaquer layer. After firing, the IPS Classic V powder opaquer should have an even, silky matte appearance. The veneering surfaces of the alloy framework must be entirely covered with opaquer. Thoroughly clean the metal framework using the steam jet before you start to apply the ceramic material. Part 4. Layering and firing dentin and incisal materials. Seal and isolate the die and the adjacent model areas with IPS model sealer before you start to paste the dentin and incisal layers. Once the materials have dried, apply IPS ceramic separating liquid to isolate the restoration. This prevents the ceramic materials from sticking to the model and from drying out. Additionally, seal and isolate the contact areas of the pontics with the model. You can use one of the two IPS Classic build-up liquids to adjust the stability of the ceramic materials to your needs. IPS Classic Build-Up Liquid Normal provides high stability during standard layering procedures. IPS Classic Build-Up Liquid Long offers prolonged working times and is thus suitable for warmer regions. Simply mix the IPS Classic materials with the desired IPS Classic Build-Up Liquid. Line the basal pontic area, the incisal ends of the framework, and the thinly covered ceramic areas with the IPS Classic Opaque Dentin V materials. This helps to mask light optical refractive edges and produce true-to-nature results. Position the framework on the model. Layer the dentin core with IPS Classic V dentin. During the layering process, use distilled water to re-wet the mixed and applied layering materials. This will help to prevent the accumulation of organic components. Build up the restoration to full contour and subsequently cut it back. Make sure to maintain the mamelon outlines in the dentin and to slightly over-contour the restoration. Next, build up the cutback areas and create all the details with IPS Classic V incisal. You can also use IPS Classic V Transper, IPS Effect, and IPS Impulse materials to customize your restorations. Lift the bridge from the model and build up the contact points with dentin and incisal materials. Before firing, cleanly separate the individual parts of the restoration by cutting through the interdental areas down to the opaquer. Furthermore, compact and smooth out the ceramic surface in the direction of the cervical margin with a large dry brush. Place the completely layered restoration on the firing tray and ensure adequate support. Now it's time for the first dentin and incisal firing. It's essential that you observe the firing parameters recommended by Ivoclar and pay attention to the standby temperature of 403 degrees Celsius. Remove the firing tray from the firing chamber only once the furnace head is completely open and the acoustic signal has sounded. Allow the restoration to cool to room temperature. Then finish it and subsequently clean it with the steam jet. Isolate the adjacent model components, such as adjacent teeth or pontic rests, once again with IPS ceramic separating liquid. Complete the missing areas with dentin and incisal materials. Pay special attention to interdental spaces as well as contact points. Place the completely layered restoration on the firing tray and ensure adequate support. The restoration is now ready for the second dentin and incisal firing. Part 5. Finishing, glazing, characterizing, and firing. After the dentin and incisal firing has been successfully completed, finish the restoration. Use diamond burrs to give the restorations a true-to-nature shape and surface texture and faithfully reproduce growth lines and convex and concave areas. Thoroughly clean the restoration with the steam jet and dry it with oil-free air before customizing it. Remove IPS Classic glazing paste from the syringe and mix thoroughly. If required, dilute the glazing paste using IPS Classic glazing and staining liquid. After mixing, apply the glazing paste thinly using a brush. Avoid pooling or applying too thick of a layer. If needed, shade adjustments can be made on the applied glaze. Use the IPS Shade V paste to adjust the shade in the cervical and dentin areas of your restoration. Individualized characteristics can be applied with IPS Stains P pastes. Dilute these materials with IPS Classic glaze and stain liquid to achieve the desired consistency. Observe the given firing parameters to fire the glaze. If you have to make significant shade adjustments, do not fire these together with the glaze. Instead, conduct a separate stains firing. Before the completion of a restoration, small adjustments such as contact points, pontic rests may be necessary. For small adjustments, use the IPS Classic add-on powder, pure or with dentin or incisal materials, in a 1:1 ratio and conduct corrective firing. Once the last firing cycle is complete, check the internal structure of the framework and ensure that no ceramic material is present. Carefully blast the restoration with aluminium oxide, type 50, at 1 bar pressure. To complete the IPS Classic restoration, finish and polish all visible framework components. IPS Classic Metal Ceramic, your choice for fast, efficient and aesthetic ceramic layering procedures.